Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
Welcome to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees with Bonnie Orr. Each week, Bonnie and her co-host Dan Kuntz walk you through the do's and don'ts, the challenges, and the rewards of gardening in North Central Washington. So, let's garden.
And welcome to today's edition of Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. I am Dan Kuntz alongside the lovely and talented Bonnie Orr. Another special edition of Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees for you today. We are at the, I'm sorry, what is the name of this official little area
here? The Community Education Garden.
We're at the corner of Western and Springwater here in Wenatchee, the Community Education Garden. And our guest today, Bonnie, I'll let you do the honors.
This is Mike Hammer, and thank you for coming out today with us. Mike is in charge of the irrigation. That's the most important part. And he also has worked on a number of different gardens and helped. We're sitting in the deer-resistant garden, which is a new garden, and his wife is involved in planning and designing this. And he also has laid out the irrigation for it. Now, last year, I went to a seminar that Mike gave on irrigation. And I said, you know, this man can explain this better than I've ever heard. I was so impressed because it made so much sense. And that's why I thought we'd like to meet him today here on Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees.
Watering is so important, the right way to water. And I got to tell you right now, most people simply have, doesn't matter the size of their lot or their spread, they have one irrigation system, and that's what they have. But that's not necessarily the right thing for the right shrubs or plants or lawn or whatever we have.
No, and the wonderful thing is that Mike is going to show us how we can retrofit what we have already. Pop-ups and risers can be retrofitted to drip.
We're going to learn a lot today, Mike. Give us a quick little heads up on what we're going to learn today over the next hour or so.
Well, we're going to talk about micro-irrigation. And micro-irrigation has two main aspects to it. Drip irrigation, where the water is applied to the soil by emitters that are right at the soil surface, and also micro-sprinklers, which are small sprinklers, miniature versions of your lawn sprinkler that cover a larger area than the emitter and help with vegetable garden type areas or more dense plantings.
Or in large pots. Yeah.
Or pots, yes.
Yeah.
Micro-irrigation is the topic today. It's extremely important how micro-irrigation came to be. When we come back, you're watching Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Live channel.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
And welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. I am Dan Kuntz alongside Bonnie Orr and Mike Hammer. And no, not the private detective Mike Hammer. Wait a minute, are you?
Of course not. No,
I was going to say.
I'm the irrigation guy.
The topic today is micro-irrigation. I know we live in the Pacific Northwest where water is abundant, but the bottom line is water is the most precious resource we have. And if you have a garden that you want to thrive and be proper, and yet you don't want to just run water down the sewer and down the grate and down the street,
and pay for it.
Yeah, exactly, and pay for it. Micro-irrigation is the way to go. There are basically two ways to go about doing it in the Wenatchee Valley. Either you're on the reclamation district where you pay a flat fee and you can water the cows come home, or like me, who lives in the city of Wenatchee, I'm metered. And I pay for as much water as I use. And I want to use as much water as I possibly can to keep my garden and lawn and shrubs happy and healthy without wasting a bunch of money and a bunch of water. And this is where this all came to be in the arid climates in the Middle East, probably.
Israel. Israel is the one who promoted this, who actually developed the systems. And when they had the large farms, not very much water, they had just opened up the first of the desalinization projects, and they still didn't have lots of water. So they designed all of these products, many of which are still made there, right?
Yes, many of the items are still from the Israeli companies.
It's been a fairly new phenomenon. It's micro-irrigation is no more than maybe 50 years old, and as like anything else, it gets better.
Well,
it progresses.
Here in the United States, I would say it was the mid-90s before you even saw articles about it in gardening journals or heard people talking about it.
And now it's everywhere. For good reason.
Yeah.
It's the right way to do it. Unless you're using your lawn, this is the way to go for almost everything, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, well, you know something? I think that soils makes a major difference on whether or not this works well.
Let's talk about that.
Because this is not the there's several reasons when this does work and doesn't work. And we mostly are going to talk about how to make it work. But if you have really dirty water and you're going to put on a number of filters, you're going to be changing those filters every single day, right?
Yes, possibly.
It's lots of work. And I do have really dirty water. And I can only run 6 stations before I have to stop and clean my filter. That's really dirty water.
That's dirty water,
Yeah.
yes.
And the other thing is what kind of soil do you have? If you have sandy soil, water when it hits the earth, and especially if you're dripping or if you're using some type of an impact thing, it goes straight down. If you have clay soil, we know that the water spreads out. Well, what happens is that if it spreads out, sometimes it doesn't go deep enough. So that would influence the type of emitter that you will use, right, Mike?
Yes, the emitters come in multiple or different flow rates from a half a gallon per hour to 2 gallons per hour. So for the clay soil, you'd use the lower flow rate dripper to apply it at a lower rate, and it won't run off. It'll give time for the water to work down through the heavy clay soil. Whereas for sand, because it goes deep, you apply a lot of water to try to spread it out to cover a greater area.
And you use more of something that's going to distribute the water rather than at one point.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
I go to the garden center and I'm overwhelmed by all these things. Oh, we have drip, we have micro irrigation, we got everything to save you money on your water bill, and your plants are gonna thrive, and I don't even know where to begin, Mike.
Wait till Mike starts showing us all the parts.
So we'll start at the beginning.
Yes.
Please do.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be your water supply, and Bonnie has alluded to filters. And clearly with drip irrigation, why don't you hand me the filter there, Bonnie, so I have something to do with my hands. With drip irrigation for the small flow rates of a half a gallon per hour, compared to a lawn sprinkler that is several gallons per hour, they have small passages, small openings, so more filtration is needed, or a finer filtration. So this is a typical filter that's used for drip irrigation. Now this one will a little later see other kind, we'll be able to look inside them. This one we can't look inside. Here's an example though of what we might see. There are 2 major kinds of filters, a mesh filter and a disc filter. Now this is a mesh filter. This has been used, so you can see there's a little bit of dirt on it.
And look how fine it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very fine.
Yeah, that's like clay. That's the water that I said clay.
Yes, and the fineness of the filter is determined by a number called the mesh number. And so for drip irrigation, you need a filter that's at least 130 mesh. And when you go buy it, it'll have a sticker on it, and the package will say.
Okay, so why do you need a filter?
Because of the small openings in the drippers, or the emitters. Dripper, emitter, same thing. We bounce around with the terms.
What's the number one thing this time of the year, and we're filming this in June, that's clogging up that filter?
Yes, if you're on the irrigation system from the ditch, which is Wenatchee Reclamation, I believe is the right name for it.
There's 2 systems, yeah.
Right.
So that system, because of the open ditches, has more foreign material in it, and especially in the early part of the year as the system is getting flushed out. Also, that is taking Wenatchee River water, and with high water in the river, there's more, and higher flow, there's more dirt, more foreign material in the river that just enters the system. Folks in East Wenatchee, or some folks in East Wenatchee, are on the Greater Wenatchee irrigation system. That's a closed system, all underground pipe. I believe the water comes from the Columbia, not from
the aquifer,
and it's cleaner. So at my home, I have that. I only have to clean my main filter twice a year.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was on that. I loved that, and now I am not. But you know, one of the big things in the irrigation water is algae right now. As it has warmed up, there's lots and lots of algae in the water, and that would clog up these little things. Look, I have another filter in here, one of those little screens, and look at how clogged up that is.
And this was used here at the garden last year.
Even though you have all the other filters on, there's still that much filter. There's still that much stuff being caught.
And our irrigation water is filtered with the usual, what's called an 80 mesh filter. that most people have on their irrigation supply to their yard, which
One
is
of the
fine.
disc ones.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a disc filter. That's fine for your lawn sprinklers, but you need the finer 130 mesh at least filter for drip irrigation. And this has a little screen. Now, after the filter, typically you would use a pressure reducer. And this,
Why reducing the pressure and not increasing the pressure? You don't want to damage the pipes?
yes, and the emitters are designed to operate at a certain pressure, so to get the amount of water through the emitter that they specify and that you think you're getting, you need to have a constant pressure.
So pressure is really very, very important. If you have too much pressure, it's going to shoot over the top of what it's supposed to be watering.
It would pop the system apart.
Or it might,
Okay, think about a rainbird and how much water a rainbird puts out, okay? And then how much you really don't need, and it could pop the things apart.
So this device reduces the pressure so we know what we're dealing with. And after that, you go to some kind of tubing, and it could even be garden hose. And one thing we should mention is that this system, drip irrigation, micro irrigation, works very well when connected to just a hose faucet. You don't need a full underground irrigation system. You can run it from the faucet on the side of your house.
Isn't that wonderful? You also don't have to put it underground, right?
Right.
Probably saves you a ton of money.
And a ton of backache.
Sure.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life Channel.
And an important aspect if you're using a connection to your house faucet is the anti-siphon device or backflow preventer. This is to keep water that's been in the irrigation system from getting back into your house domestic water system.
Which is required, by the way, in the city of Wenatchee.
And in East Wenatchee, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this important thing to make sure you have, even though the hose connection that Bonnie has here can screw right onto your faucet, you don't want to do that. Okay, so after the filter and the pressure reducer, then we can go with, and what we'll usually do is use this larger plastic tubing. And this is half-inch diameter, approximately. Everybody just calls this half-inch if it looks like this. And you'd run this out in your yard someplace or over to your garden or wherever the area is that you want to irrigate with drip irrigation. And then the emitters or drippers can be installed right into this tubing, or with a connector you can use 1/4-inch tubing and go to emitters on the end of the tubing. So here we have maybe a plant. You've got a medium-sized plant, and you put one emitter on either side of the plant. Now these are the 1 gallon per hour type.
They're green, right?
No, these
they're
are black.
Black.
The green are 2 gallons per hour.
Right. And it's universal.
In normal soil, I'm up on the east side of East Wenatchee. We have kind of loamy type soil, not really sandy. The 1 gallon per hour are the ones that have worked the best for me, although I've used half and 2, and this is the right thing for me.
So how do you get these things in here? Tell us about the easy way to do it.
Well,
And please tell us there's an easy way to
The
do
easy
it,
way-
Mike. Yeah.
easy way to do
We're
it.
into the easy
well,
way.
I'll show you the way I do it.
Okay,
And that is I have a punch, and these are exceedingly inexpensive, a couple dollars, and you can get them any place where you buy drip irrigation equipment.
Here, and I have one for arthritic hands.
There you go, a bigger handle,
Yeah.
and it essentially works the same way. And when it's warm, it's not too bad to punch into it. And I'm going to put it in the blue stripe here so you can see it better, but it can go any place. And we do this.
You made that look so easy, but partly because it's 70 degrees, 75 degrees right this minute on this thing. Because I find it is really hard when the pipe is cold.
If it was 50 degrees, it'd be different.
And what do you do if it's 50 degrees and you want to get your garden started?
Hair dryer, if you have a long extension cord.
Okay. And you also, you said you can use a thermos?
I sometimes bring on a thermos of hot water out in the yard with me and dip the tubing into it. And that's especially useful when we are putting together various sections of the half-inch tubing, because we use these kind of fittings, and these are standard half-inch. This is called polyethylene or poly pipe. You can get them in any hardware store, and they
Well, that's handy
go in,
dandy.
and they're take some. Now this isn't too bad here today, since it's nice and warm. So we get that in there, and I don't know if I can do this.
So, retrofit.
Yeah, thing to remember is put the clamp on before
first.
you put the fitting.
Oh, okay.
Is it going to go around the corner?
Now,
It
for
is.
the sake
It is.
of
Okay.
television here, I skipped that part.
That's okay.
And then this is one way to do it, and this is a clamp that uses a special tool. And if you're doing your whole yard, I bought one of these 10 years ago, and I haven't lost it yet, and it was a good investment. And you just
And it pinches it right on there.
squeeze that, and that'll never come off. In fact, if you want to take it apart, you just cut it and
Got it.
start over.
Can this
Yep.
pipe here, we're talking about it, if it's too cold, it's not pliable enough, can it be too warm too? Can it be just, it's too hot and it won't, if you punch the hole, it's going to get too big?
Oh,
Or,
don't I wish?
Not in my experience.
okay, so,
Okay, so here we have a barb.
Yes, let's make another hole. No, I have a hole.
You
We're all
have a
set.
hole.
Okay.
Right.
And so this is the kind of fitting. This happens to be a T, but we'll just use it because it has this end on it that's used to put it. Now, I'd recommend wearing gloves. I always wear gloves when I do this because it's hard on the hands, and you'll feel better if you. And we'll see if I can. Oh, this is easy. Nice and warm.
right on in.
This is, I mean, don't I wish?
Yes.
I know.
I'm usually standing on my head pounding on the thing. I mean, this is the most frustrating part of the whole system.
And we have to do all this work in April when
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
50 degrees,
Uh-huh.
not in. We only do repairs now in June,
Yeah.
and then we're in a hurry. And this can, if you're strong, you can take that out,
Oh, that's cool.
and you can fix it.
Okay, you need a dummy?
Well, I have one installed here.
Oh, you have one installed, okay.
So here's what's called a goof plug, aptly named.
So if you make a mistake, that
You
just
make
keeps
a
the water from
mistake,
leaking out.
You can stick this in the hole, and amazingly, at least to me, it doesn't leak.
Wow. And they're called goof plugs. They should be
Goof
called
plugs.
Dan plugs, but we won't get into that.
Okay, so now you've got your main line stretched out across your yard, and you put this at the end to
Pinch it off.
pinch it off, and like that. So
There's
there
been a
you
lot
go.
of thought put into these things. I noticed that. It's just really
And
cool.
now
And they're
we
simple.
run this around. And we have plants like we have
And we'll be
here,
doing that. Yep.
all over. We'll see how we do it, but you connect this 1/4-inch tubing to the main line and run it over and water a plant.
Okay, and there's many different
And
ways.
now there's more parts.
Or with a spring. Yeah, this is fun. There's a lot of buying involved and shopping.
Yeah, if you're a shopper, you can just be crazed. Okay.
The old "there's 50 ways to skin a cat" story really applies to drip irrigation.
Okay.
Why
So,
don't you hand me that stake there, Bonnie? So when we do a micro sprinkler, usually we put it on a stake like this. So this goes down in the ground. The 1/4-inch tubing connects
right
to
where
it,
it goes in, yep.
right there. And then this is a standard size thing, and lots of things can screw in here. So here's a kind of miniature lawn sprinkler type thing, and that just, well, maybe this one, yeah, this goes in there like that.
even though it has, it looks like it screws into something, that really those are barbs just to hold in place. Is that correct?
That's right.
And you don't need a little
You need
nothing else.
no clamps,
No clamps.
No
nothing.
clamps, no glue, no nothing. It just
Let's see.
Cool.
Let's. Oh, here. Let's use this one. So here's another kind. This
Is this
puts
a
out a
fly?
little
Okay.
spray that is half circle. It can be turned off, or you can, by adjusting the valve on it here, you can determine how far the water, how big an area you water. And so that just screws in here.
Now, do all hardware stores carry all of this material, or is it a specialty place?
Good
You
question.
can get them a lot of places. Hardware
Okay.
stores have a lot of it. hypermarket, Fred Meyer type places that have hardware have them. There are the big box stores have this. The dedicated irrigation supply stores have it as well. And there might be some differences, but on Saturday or Sunday, if you have to fix something, you can always find something that you need that'll at least get you working. So that's the micro irrigation part, or the micro sprinkler part.
Okay.
Now let's look at the tubing with built-in emitters, like that one right there, Bonnie.
Okay.
I like this one, and I use a lot of this, and we use a lot of it here in the garden, and we'll show you some later.
And see, and this is the same size, and so you could do a connection with those two like that with the connector.
Right.
Right. And where's my
We have
box?
a connector
Here,
handy?
I have a.
Oh, look at that.
But no. Okay.
It's like a little tackle kit for a
No,
fisherman.
but reach over to your
Oh,
other side and
now
get
whatever
the.
you
holy
do,
Now,
moly.
that's
Don't
the
let
big.
that fall.
That's
won't.
the
I
that's
won't.
the big
I won't, Mike.
boys. This is the lady size.
Yes.
Oh, look at this.
Okay.
Look at this. You got everything in here. Is this yours, Mike?
No, this is the gardens.
Can I
This
have
is-
it?
No.
No.
Okay.
Okay,
Where's the
so
shop?
We have stuff in here that
be
we
very
would
careful.
never remember what we bought. So let's see, where's the connector?
I felt like a surgical assistant here.
yeah, you are. you
Dr.
are.
Hammer will be performing surgery.
And here are goof plugs.
Lots of those.
They come 8 or 10 on a stick because you use a lot of them, make a lot of mistakes. Okay, here's the, this is the connector. So you see it's got a little Barbie thing on both ends. And
So basically, it's a double male.
yep. And so here's one installed. I just cut this off to bring it for a demonstration. So
And again, same deal. Just shove it in one side, shove
put
it in
it
the
in.
other.
and-
I love the
Owie,
fact that
owie,
there's
owie.
no.
my
Owie,
finger.
but it is nice and warm, and so.
Right. And here, why don't you hand me the cutter
Okay.
there, Bonnie? This one was a broken off fitting. If you walk on these a lot, you can break them. So we just snip it off, and I really like this kind of cutter.
And I have found this little fiskars.
Oh, that works handy
nicely,
too.
Now this will also cut the pipe. I mean, it cuts the half-inch,
Mm-hmm.
and this cuts the white irrigation pipe. You know,
Sure.
so if you got that, you can use all that together. So then this goes in here.
Just like
And
that.
It's
Then-
turning into a spaghetti factory.
Now this tubing has the emitters, the drippers, built into the tubing.
Oh.
And this one happens to be every 6 inches. It also comes in a 12-inch
And
spacing.
So would you put the Dan plugs where you don't want them, or can
Yes,
you
like
get
right
them
at
with
the
no
end.
holes in them and you put in the holes where you
on
want
the
them?
end, but you actually can't put the goof plugs into these. These are
Right.
built in, so they're very small.
Okay.
And it's also lined with metal, I think, aren't they?
I think they're plastic.
You think it's but it's
They're
hard plastic.
what they say, extruded. So when this tubing is forced through a die to make it, the plastic is
I
not hard
understand.
yet, it's soft.
Mm-hmm.
They're put right in. And so you would take this, let's put this back here, that's out of sight, out of mind at the moment, and we'd put this around our plant. And this provides water all around.
About
the
every
plant.
8
This
inches,
is,
it looks
this
like.
is every 6 inches.
6 inches, yep.
They also come 12-inch. You can use either one around a plant. I usually use the 12-inch around shrubs. The 6-inch, though, is needed in a garden. If you've got a vegetable garden, you'd stretch this right along your planting row, and then in that case, the 6-inch spacing is needed, especially when the plants are small. Now, plants will go a long ways for water, so once they get established, the roots will find their way, but when they're young and freshly planted, water needs to be applied.
And if you are doing transplants, that's a perfect thing. But if you're broadcasting seed, like I have found, because I plant my carrots and my beets in a kind of a little square,
Uh-huh.
and I have found that I can't get water to enough of the seeds to have them germinate.
This is not the right way for that. Then the micro sprinkler is a good
Yes,
way to
exactly,
go. That waters
exactly.
the whole area. We'll be able to
These,
turn some
yeah.
on and see those.
And here's something else that happens. Okay, I'm digging things out.
What did you bring us?
I don't know whether it's still alive or not. It looks like a spider's been living in here and has been eating. But the problem is, oh my goodness, there's all sorts of things in here. The problem is that this was open, and I inadvertently, well, I probably, because I was being lazy, I left it open for the winter, which I should not have done. And now this is probably toast. Because
Here, Bonnie, I'll just blow on the other end.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, right.
There we go.
Yeah, you look in there.
Did you see it?
It did.
It did. Okay, it did. It puffed out. Okay, so maybe you save this because this is these are really easy to clog. Right? No?
My experience has been that they're very reliable. I
Okay,
don't know that,
okay.
particularly the half-inch ones like this, the big ones. Now, this is the small version, and this is the large version of what I call dripper tube. And so this
Which is what you have in your hand too.
Yeah,
and that's
right
a
here.
different brand. And this has an emitter built in and at like 12-inch spacing. Although I like mine better than
The 12,
yours.
yeah, I like
This-
6s. 12s is really hard. 12s is okay for tomatoes or for pepper plants. If you're gonna have a flower bed where things are spaced out, you
Right.
know, and you're going to allow them to have time
I'll tell you what we got to do. We got to take a quick break.
Okay.
What are we going to learn when we come back, Mike? Where are we going to next? Mike, Bonnie?
We're
What are we
going
gonna
to
do?
walk around and see some of this installed.
Cool.
No, we are not. We
Oh.
still have.
We still got more stuff.
What, we haven't used up all our parts yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
More parts then,
More
apparently.
parts.
When we come back, we're going to go to break, and I'll play a little green sleeves for you here on the flip. You ready?
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. Micro irrigation is the topic today. We are broadcasting from the community garden at the corner of Western and Springwater here in beautiful Wenatchee Town. I am Dan Kuntz. You know Bonnie Orr, private investigator Mike Hammer. Who knew that he doubled as a master gardener? It's just incredible. Right out of the top, Mike, I'm going to ask you, I'm very much interested in that, but I have a sprinkler system that's 30 years old. It works fine. Why would I want to spend a bunch of money to retrofit all of this stuff? Is it going to cost me a fortune? I mean, I look at all these parts and everything I got to do.
It will cost you a little bit of money. It wouldn't be a fortune, and it will probably
In the long run, save
pay
me money.
for itself, if not save you money, by using less water and getting the water just on the plants, just where it needs to be.
And again, I live in the city of Wenatchee, so I'm metered. I get billed for as much water as I use. It makes perfect sense for somebody like me.
Right.
But the other reason why it could make perfect sense is that if you decide you have some plants that thrive and some plants that aren't thriving, well, you can make it so that all of your plants thrive because you can direct how much water goes to them. By the different types of emitters put out a different number of gallons
And get
per
just the
hour.
right amount of water on each plant. Another aspect is if you're watering your shrubs and garden and lawn all at the same time, your lawn might easily take twice as much water as your shrubs. And so to keep your lawn happy, you're overwatering the shrubs. So depending upon your lawn to shrub ratio, we like to say, that will determine, you can substantially cut down the amount of water you use.
So people should not be intimidated by retrofitting their already existing system to micro irrigation.
No, in fact, I can show you how to do it.
Let's do it.
Right here. So this is a retrofitting adapter. This happens to be made by Rainbird. And
Very reliable company, very
big name, and they have lots of drip and micro irrigation, micro sprinklers. So this system, this is a adapter that this is your standard little thing that's in the ground, the housing for your little pop-up sprayer. So you unscrew the sprayer, and you get this thing which has the filter, the fine filter that's needed for drip irrigation. It's got the pressure reducer that we talked about before, and it screws right in to the same housing. And this is an adapter on top. And so this is a standard half-inch pipe thread on top. You can get all kinds of fittings that screw onto that, and you can go to this kind of tubing.
Right.
It is
or-
the standard.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so this one has the fitting that is on, this one currently is one that's going to go to a tube.
Right. So you can see this is the adapter to small things, and this small thing happens to be the one that fits this quarter-inch tubing that we just had here.
Which is another reason why you need the pressure reducer on the system.
Exactly.
Okay, because the amount of water that would be being put on. And then we can do one of these.
Install a little micro sprinkler in the same fitting.
Yeah.
No, trust me.
Yeah.
Believe me, it goes in here. There we go.
Yeah.
So, like that.
And just like that, you've just retrofitted it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Now,
No tools.
But here's the deal: is that you cannot just take your pop-up and
turn it into that.
And
I can see that you're turning on your automatic sprinkler system and
well, it's not just that. It's because the pressure hasn't been reduced.
Sure.
That's the first problem. But the second problem is that it doesn't have the filter in it.
Oh.
So you're going to be clogging your little tiny emitter.
So you definitely need this kind of item that has this fine filter in it. And the filter, you can just wash it off. It comes out like that. So.
and no tools. We're not using crescent wrenches and stuff. You're doing everything by hand for the most part.
I do. My hands are probably not as strong as Mike's, and so these are the only two I use.
Just that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
That can be a goof plug installer.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, don't be intimidated by retrofitting it.
No, because it's not complicated.
It's not complicated.
No, not at all. And here's another kind here that goes on to.
I feel like we're playing the game. What is this?
No kidding, and I'm losing at the moment.
What is that, Bonnie?
It goes like that.
Well, this is the state that goes in the ground,
It
obviously.
goes in the ground,
okay.
and then
That applies water subterranean.
no, but
Oh.
that's what I thought too when I first bought them. That's what I thought. Okay, there were no directions. Okay, see, there's this little piece of PVC or polyethylene on it, and what you do is you push it on, and depending on how much water you want, you raise it to allow more water out, or you close it down, and it only puts out a little bit
How
of
does
water.
the water come out?
The water comes out, and it makes a complete circle all the way around. Or you can have it go down just, only on one side or whatever. I mean, they're just the handiest little devils. But I do have to say that one of the things that happens sometimes when I am applying these things is that sometimes I'll have one and I'm going, why isn't that working? And I take it apart and I, and I clean it. But you know what the problem is? Have you ever had that happen?
Almost never.
Almost never.
But again, I
like
have
him.
clean water.
He's good.
Now, what
I have terrible
want to
water.
hear my story about what gets plugged for me?
Okay.
Okay, anything
we're telling the honest truth, you see.
That's what we're
anything
here
that's
for.
red. On these stakes, we had some little, here they are. These happen to be green, but these little sprayers that screw into the stake.
I think I have some red ones for you here, right here.
There you go.
Mike.
Okay.
Let me get a red one for you here. There you go.
Perfect. So we have these, and starting about July, these will plug.
Why?
Good question. If I knew the answer to that, I could probably do something about it. So they're plugged, and I go out here and I look at it, and unscrew it, and I have a little cleaner made out of the green wire that's used for flower arranging.
Oh yeah.
Works perfectly. Just stick it in there, and it looks like
I use a piece of copper wire. Mine's not as fancy as yours.
it looks like parts of insects. I think
Absolutely.
I think the red attracts insects, and the water attracts them also. So they come to the red, they drink the water. Then I don't know what else they do, but they do things that clog this up with what looks like insect parts. And sometimes the clog will extend down into the riser here.
And I totally agree. I have had insects crawl in under here, at night or whatever, and then this thing is not moving, and I'm going, why isn't it moving? And with my little piece of copper wire, I'm pulling out legs, and then I'm pulling out a head, and I go, oh shoot.
I've got ones like that are red, and the red ones are the ones that plug.
Interesting.
And yet they're made red so you can easily find them.
No,
right?
they're made red to show you how many gallons per
Oh, that's right. The color-coded thing we talked about. Green is
green, brown, black, and
Right.
so that
so
makes
these
okay.
are black, blue, green, and red.
Okay.
And I
okay.
think red is the highest flow.
Okay, so it's
Well,
the
you even
red.
have a little thing
I
on
know
top of
the
that.
red is a half gallon, the black is 1 gallon, and the green is 2 gallons. What's the blue?
Well, that's these sprayers. I don't know.
Oh,
The blue
okay.
one is, I think, a little depressed.
Yeah.
I'm not
There
sure.
you go.
So
Could be.
I want to walk around. So what else do we need to learn before we take a look-see around the community garden and actually see these babies in action?
What do you think, Bonnie? Have we
Oh,
covered
you know,
everything?
no, I think we want to walk over here and look at a filter.
Okay.
let's do that.
See an installation?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Let's do
Okay.
that. Let's
Okay.
take another break before we do that, all right?
Okay.
And I'll go ahead and I played green sleeves last time. What would you like to hear this time?
Oh, I would like to hear something like "Let It Rain."
Okay.
That sounds like
I don't know
Yeah,
that
it sounds
song.
like-
That's not bad. Green thumbs and dirty knees. We are micro irrigating. It's good for you when we come back on the NCW Live channel.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kerry Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
And welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. Dan Kuntz, Bonnie Orr, Mike Hammer. We're talking about micro irrigation. We showed you all the parts, retrofitting the whole 9 yards. We're now doing the practical application. Mike, what is this?
These are the guts.
Okay, we're here at the Dahlia Garden, at the Community Education Garden, and so this is a good example of the installation of a drip irrigation system, a filter, pressure regulator, and then we've made some changes and put in a different system so we can see a couple different things here all working together. So the first thing I'd like to show you is the filter, and this is our usual disc filter.
This is a disc.
Ah.
And there are a lot of little discs here with little grooves in them, and it's held together with a spring, and the water passes through the grooves, but the dirt doesn't. So that's a 130 mesh. Then we have a pressure reducer here, and this is the kind of pressure reducer you'd use for a permanent installation. And now we've retrofitted our standard drip irrigation system to a new kind of drip tube, drip tape that applies the water to the plants. And so it's watering each row of dahlias. This is a very lightweight plastic. It's flat when it's not watering, and it takes a lower pressure. So this is, the normal drip irrigation takes a pressure of 35 pounds per square inch.
That's a lot, isn't it?
That's medium. Your house is probably 50. So 35 is a nice number for
Now,
us.
this is transferring from that to 10 psi.
Right, there's 10 pounds per square inch, and this needs an even finer filter. So here we have a 150 mesh filter. So
Wow.
the bigger the number, the finer the filter. And this is a mesh filter rather than the disc filter, and looks like that. And this is really fine.
And one of the important things is not getting your dirty gloves on the mesh. No, I'm
That
not
makes
kidding
perfect
you.
sense, yeah.
When you're no, this was
That's
nothing.
why I have
Don't
these
take any-
rubber coated gloves.
Yeah, yeah, because if your hands are, if you have dirty tools or something like that, then you've contaminated, kind of, you've made it worse.
Is the first thing that you would notice if you have one of these systems that it's not working properly is that the filters are probably clogged and they need to be checked?
That's the first thing to check,
Okay.
and it's the easiest thing to check.
Uh-huh.
Now this filter is kind of snazzy, as we say,
Oh!
because it can be self-cleaning. So when the water is on, you can open this valve, and it
can I do that?
backflushes.
That's cool.
No. Sorry, Bonnie. And here we have a battery-operated timer, and we'll look
Talk
at our
about that,
vegetable.
yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
And-
And
Here we have your clamps that we saw you put on.
we have another kind of fitting that doesn't use a clamp, but screws together. And that is another way that this half-inch black poly tubing can be connected. And then there's special fittings that adapt the tape to the half-inch tubing.
Okay, so this is a type of connector that is screwed into the tape, but then it is punched into the tubing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now we'll go look at, we talked about battery operated timers here. We've got a great example of the kind that we use here that we're quite happy with.
Can we get
so
some
we'll go
pictures
see
of this
those.
interesting tape? Because the dahlias, each dahlia plant is along this, and this is a six inch emitter, right?
6 or 8.
6 or 8. Well, hang on.
It's less than a foot.
Well, you know something? It's not. The plants are a foot apart. Because my hand's 8 inches.
Yes. And I've seen it after it operates, the whole row is wet.
The whole row is wet.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And partly because this soil is really nice soil, and so the water is spreading out.
Yeah, we should point that out. The soil here is fantastic.
Yeah.
And this soil has had a lot of work. Compost, good soil to start with. Actually, the soil here at the Tree Fruit Research Center is really quite good, just as it is.
And it's funny because while we're talking about this particular system, where does the Tree Fruit Research Center get their water?
This is irrigation water from Wenatchee Reclamation from the ditch.
Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees will be right back after this.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees on the NCW Life channel.
And welcome back to Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. We're talking about micro irrigation, which is not a fad. It's not going away. It's the way to do it. In almost all respects, it's going to save you tons of money. You're going to have the right plants with the right amount of water at the right time of day.
Exactly.
Which leads us to this, Mike, doesn't it?
Okay, at the other garden we talked about a battery-operated timer, and these are really handy to use when you have just a small zone like a small vegetable garden. Here we have one of our raised bed vegetable gardens. We have irrigation water here, and the timer screwed onto the faucet, and because we have irrigation water, we don't need the backflow preventer here.
Exactly.
So this battery-operated timer can be set for several times a day or several days in between. It's really
And certain times of the day.
certain times of the day. So what time do you want it to start? How long? How often? And it can also be turned on manually. So I can push this button and it'll start, and we won't be able to see much because it's only dripping. And so here's the filter.
So this is on. This is on. Now it's on.
Yes.
Okay. And can we
We can see that, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is drip irrigation in operation in one of our vegetable beds here. And this is the tubing that we talked about that has the drippers built into the tubing, the emitters.
And every 6 inches.
Yes.
And the thing is that the tubing is on the surface right now, but in probably 2 weeks it'll be totally covered by vegetation.
Yes.
And so the evaporation will be less because many times with drip irrigation you have some type of a covering the emitters with bark or something to prevent evaporation.
Right.
And the foliage is going to do that job for us.
And that is one of the ways that drip irrigation saves water compared to overhead irrigation. The wind doesn't blow it away. It's not small droplets that evaporate before they hit the ground. So all the water that you're applying here is ending up in the soil.
There's almost no evaporation.
Right.
Almost none.
Okay, so I noticed that this is hooked to a hose.
Yes. And this is one of the advantages of drip irrigation. You have a lot of flexibility. So we have this system here, and then you say, well, this faucet points this way, the bed is behind us. How do we do it? Well, it turns out by using some normal fittings that are easily obtainable and a short piece of old hose. So if you have old garden hoses at home where you drove over the end of it and it won't screw together anymore.
Or kinks where it won't unkink.
Or you left it out all summer and it kind of cooked it in a few places in the sun. So this is a great way to use up short pieces of your old garden hose and kind of rig it up here, go around the corner. And other cases here, we've connected a couple beds together off a single timer. So a lot of flexibility.
This white, okay, so this white piece of PVC is essentially something which goes from hose to
half-inch.
It's a transition piece.
Yes.
And again,
So
this is
it-
the clamp we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Exactly. So it inserts into the, and this is dripper tube, and the in addition to actually having the drippers in the tube, you can also punch holes in it, and
You can put holes wherever you want to.
Right.
I didn't realize that.
I think that's probably not
Kosher?
authorized, but
Kosher, is that right? These are made
Yeah,
in Israel?
right.
Bonnie isn't authorized either, Mike.
but
Don't
it
worry about it.
It works.
it works great.
That's interesting. Okay. Okay.
So, and this is how, and you can look at the vegetables here. We have peas, beans,
Soybeans? Yeah.
fava beans, all looking really nice, and all the rest of our beds here, you can see behind us, we have asparagus.
And all of these beds, it looks like to me, are untimers.
Yes,
And again, it's going to save you tons of money. You can water the right plant at the right amount at the right time of day, which is critical. And if we go through a really long stretch of sunny, hot weather, and by the way, the long-term forecast for the month of June is going to be warmer than normal and drier than normal. Just a quick heads up for you gardeners out there. It's going to be a dry, warm June.
Okay.
Which was not like we had last year. Last year's June was a little cooler
Yeah.
and a little wetter. It's going to be hotter and it's going to be drier. And that's critically important because if you're going through, if they look like they might be under stress, you can go ahead and just pop on some quick water.
right.
And
Well, yes, and I want to talk again about using a timer like this. The least effective way of gardening is using a hose, standing there and whistling the Star Spangled Banner before you move to the next row.
Right.
I prefer God Bless America.
You use God Bless
Yeah,
America.
well, that's-
and the thing is, you just finally you give it up unless you're drinking or something, you know,
Right.
and then you can take it a little longer. But you know, who knows?
It takes forever to put on enough water from a hose.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
amazing how small amount of water is coming out of that hose, even though you have this stream going out. So better to have something like this and go
I mean,
take
like
a break.
this can solve lots and lots of problems, and you can have it done in a week or so, and so you won't have to worry about a hot June.
Basically, it works for any garden of any kind, with exception of lawns. You
Lawns.
can't really water a lawn
Right.
with
Right.
this system, and that's fine. You shouldn't either.
That's right.
Yeah.
But whether you have shrubs or trees or a vegetable garden, whatever the case may be, you really need to consider the micro irrigation system.
Right.
So
Okay.
I learned a lot today.
I did too,
Great.
Mike.
So,
Thank you.
so
You're
Mike, more
welcome.
people want to learn more about this. You are obviously the expert. Where do they go from here? Mike, I want to learn more. I think I want to do this.
Well, there's always the internet.
right.
and,
that's catching on, by the way. Have you
Yeah,
noticed
that's
that?
what I hear.
Yeah.
We'd recommend that you go to sites that are associated with universities that have a EDU suffix. So Washington State has a really good drip irrigation handout bulletin. You can go to the various stores around, talk to people, workers there at the store, they can help you out. We have a diagnosis clinic that the Master Gardeners have Mondays and Wednesdays, 1 to 4. People can call or send us an email at chelanmastergardeners@gmail. And
we have there's work days on Fridays, right?
Yes, most Fridays there's someone here working, so you can stop in. The garden is open all the time, so you can come dawn to dusk, so you can come look at things and see how we do it. And we're reasonably successful, but we're still learning.
Well, thank you for taking the time to educate
welcome.
us. Thank you.
Great, I enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed today's edition of Green Thumbs and Dirty Knees. Until next week, on behalf of Bonnie Orr and Mike Hammer, private investigator, I'm Dan Kuntz. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.